Tonight on the season premiere of The Henry Rollins Show, we sit down with Marilyn Manson, who's here to talk about his first album in 4 years and a career's worth of criticism. And later, an exclusive musical performance from Peaches, who makes her uncut and uncensored television debut here tonight. Do not miss this. It's a new season here on The Henry Rollins Show, and we're so glad to be back with you. It's been a while since we've gotten together, and in that time, a lot has happened, but very little has changed. Republicans did get their asses handed to them, and they can all kiss my ass and say hello to Madam Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. Evangelical heavyweight and New Life Church founder Ted Haggard resigns his post after admitting to buying crystal methamphetamine and congressing with a male prostitute. Haggard chalks it up to sexual immorality and is currently being rehabilitated. Republican from Florida, Mark Foley's taste for teenage boys is exposed as his sexually explicit emails to congressional pages comes to light. White House Press Secretary Tony Snow characterizes the emails as merely overly friendly and nothing to be worried about, as we are all left to store that information in the pedophile. Hey! Bush, enjoying Nixonian approval ratings, delivered his flatline, no-news State of the Union address that he could have delivered last year, which brings me to my point. It's been another year, and not a lot has changed. The invasion of Iraq continues to drain America of resources while it enriches the coffers of KBR and other crony corporations, kills and hideously mangles brave soldiers and innocent civilians unceasingly, and creates more enemies worldwide daily. The Bush administration didn't care much for what the Iraq Study Group had to say and sent more troops surging into Baghdad. Katrina survivors are still displaced, and no one in government seems all that concerned. The always eager Disney girl, Britney Spears, took time away from her hectic schedule of endangering her children and getting rid of her intellectually malnourished husband to expose her pudenda to the motor drives of half-interested paparazzi cameras, giving us all way too much personal information. Saddam Hussein, hanged by amateurs, his half-brother Barzan Ibrahim, also hanged, loses his head to poor execution technique as mankind hits a new low. Will anything ever change for the better? I don't have an answer for that, but what I do know is that unless we push with the utmost urgency for progress, there will only be more of the same. And that is not only unacceptable, it is also unsustainable. We are going to have a great season here on IFC, and I hope you join me, our musical and sit-down guests, as we go uncut, uncensored, and stick it to these motherfuckers nonstop. Marilyn Manson is joining us tonight. Starting with the album Portrait of an American Family, Manson has seared his music and image into America's collective memory for over a decade. With his artwork, a new album, Eat Me, Drink Me, and a future film project based on the life of Lewis Carroll, Marilyn Manson is once again ready to show conservative America what it doesn't want to see. Marilyn, thanks for arriving here and showing up.
Aggressive intro.
Right on. Pretty good, right?
Yeah.
You were releasing the album Eat Me, Drink Me, and it's the first record in 4 years. Were you off music for a while?
It was a strange period. I mean, I pulled a bit of a Ziggy Stardust moment where I wanted to quit music. I didn't really have any interest in doing it anymore because I felt the music industry had gotten to a point where I just felt completely unfulfilled, uninterested. It just seemed very objectified, very much a product, very much a cliche of what, someone was supposed to feel. But I just didn't really feel inspired to do it. And then I kind of sunk into a weird black hole of, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I kind of almost lost an identity. Like, I didn't know who I was because I didn't really have anything. Because I've always identified myself personally by what I do.
Yeah.
And my greatest fear has always been not being able to create. And I almost got to that point. You know, I got to a point a couple of months where I don't think I've ever been that lost. And, you know, different things changed, different people in my life changed, things moved around. And I wrote one song, and then it became maybe the fastest record I've ever worked on. But this is the record that I've always meant to make.
Oh, wow.
I never did before.
What does this new album say about America, if anything?
I'm not sure if this record is very American specifically. I think it's probably the most autobiographical. I think the center point is about wanting to find a connection. I think it's like the ultimate desire to feel like you're a part of something, that you matter. So to me, the whole thing is about wanting to feel a part of something.
Yeah,
So in that sense, I mean, it's kind of very comprehensive of my whole life, if I have to look at it objectively.
Is like a personal, more of a personal statement than some of the other records?
Yeah. I don't think it's me looking at the rest of the world anymore. I think it's me looking very much at myself, not even looking at myself, just saying stuff about myself I would be maybe too embarrassed or too self-conscious to say. But I think it will really take people back a step, and it's very rock and roll. I think it's very untechnological. It sounds very back to music.
With all the exposure you get, there's the good, which I'm sure is really good, but I'm sure the negative part of it is gonna be really hard. I mean, I've never seen any musician who just gets the firewall like you do.
Yeah.
So what's that like?
I've learned to kind of ignore it, but as far as after surviving Columbine, I think I kind of went over the hill of like what you can tolerate, because that was just like the worst. That was, you know, I'm in Hollywood and people are giving me dirty looks like I did something wrong.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck? You know, what are you doing? So I've just learned to deal with it.
Right.
I had to move out of LA. I moved to Chatsworth.
Oh, nice. I remember I was at Sunset Sound down the street, down the road in Hollywood, doing vocals on a record. And I took a break, went out to the front lounge, watching the news, Columbine. I was like, oh no, this is really bad. I said, they're gonna have to blame it on someone. They're gonna pin this on someone who's not at fault, because no one in this country likes to take personal responsibility, bad parenting or whatever.
Yeah.
I said, they're gonna hang this on someone by sundown. And he said, like who? I said, crazy rock and rollers, Satanists. And I said, someone like Marilyn Manson.
Yeah, I kind of assert myself as an obvious candidate for everything like that. Like I can't feel like I didn't ask for it when I make a record, like Antichrist Superstar. It's kind of...
Well, that asks for it.
Yeah.
In a way. You say you have a title like that, you're kind of going like, it's here.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't do any press. I refused. You know, I got offers from everyone.
Yeah.
And then when Michael Moore interviewed me, it doesn't really show it in Bowling for Columbine, but I had been, I came back to Denver for the first time since then, and I was playing on Ozfest at Mile High Stadium.
Right.
And we had hundreds of death threats. So I'm thinking, if I'm gonna die, it's gonna be today, because it's Mile High Stadium. They're not gonna be able to stop it if someone wants to, you know, shoot. So when I went on stage, there was, you know, I just had to decide, okay, I can't live without doing what I do, so I have to accept the fact I'm gonna die for it if it's gonna be today. And it was a great show. Obviously, I didn't die. But when I did that interview, there wasn't really a name for the documentary. It wasn't really there. I feel a little bit I don't know, I wouldn't say used or anything like that, but when he did the interview, I talked to him for about 2.5 hours. And a lot of the stuff that he went on to say in the second half of the documentary was stuff that I said to him, but it opened a window that kind of reintroduced me to the world in a way that people hadn't really understood me before. You know, if I got paid for every time someone came up to me at an airport or anywhere saying, I saw you in Bowling for Columbine, the most common thing I get is, I didn't know you were so intelligent. I'm like, I didn't know you were so fucking stupid, but I don't know you, you know? So, but, you know, it's a backhanded compliment, but...
The documentary at least asked a really important question, like, what's our problem with gun homicide in this country?
Right.
And your moment, and I've seen the thing twice now, and it's your moment in that really resonated with me the most.
I appreciate it, and at the same time, it's kind of my criticism for the film, because people ask me what I think about it, and I of course like how I came across in it, but I think that a lot of it didn't really deliver. I think there was a lot of stuff in there that I wanted that movie to answer, and it didn't.
Yeah.
But, you know, ultimately, I like what the movie did, but I think as far as the actual subject matter and the answers that I became obsessed with, because I locked myself in an attic for 3 months and didn't want to talk to anybody because I was afraid I was going to get killed and stuff. So I wanted a lot of answers, and I didn't get them from it, but that's, you know, that's a different thing.
Yeah. America is in a very interesting place right now. And I'm sure you understand when I say interesting, it's interesting for some very awful reasons.
It's like when you're at an art gallery and you're like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
There's a couple of ways you can have the inflection on interesting to mean it sucks or it's, it's interesting.
We are definitely in interesting times.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're very aware of things that go on. What scares you about America right now?
The thing that just scares me, if anything, is how much more can the common man be manipulated? How much farther can the government go? You know, how longer is it till we get to George Orwell?
Yeah.
There's so many people that know it and talk about it, you know, however many people will watch your show and they know it and they agree with you, or people that watch Bill Maher, or people that, you know, that watched Bowling for Columbine, and you think, if all these people did something about it, why would we still be in the same position? So it's scary to know that the right wing has such a stronghold. If people really stopped and realized how much art and creative people move the world versus politics and religion, I mean, it's not even up for debate. An artist at least creates things, puts things into the world, whereas these other people are destroying things, taking things out of the world. I think that's always been the point of politics, is always to suppress that, because they're afraid of it, and they know that.
Sure. How important is painting for you now?
Recently, I haven't painted in a couple months because I've been singing.
Yeah.
But it's always been an outlet. Specifically, if I'm frustrated, instead of just, you know, pacing or watching The Real World or something, I went and I paint.
Do you consider your art degenerate art? And when I speak of degenerate art, I'm talking about,
in the
you know,
traditional sense.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's kind of when you know, come up with morality issues about what's good and what's evil and what's degenerate, what's acceptable. You know, I think degenerate art and a lot of, you know, the Dada era, they were doing it in the punk rock sense of, you know, that was the original punk rock.
Also at great risk. I mean, you know, people were
life risks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And those are some of my heroes, people like Otto Dix, and a lot of the writers of that time, like especially the Russian writers who are getting jailed. They're getting like gulagged and, you know, being disappeared.
And being a writer, if you want to be unique, you always have to say something that someone else isn't saying.
Right.
So I mean, that's kind of, I think just to even say you're a writer, you have to be controversial, or else you're not doing it. You're not doing anything. Yeah. But I always wanted to take it to the next step where I felt like I was willing to risk my personal safety, my personal reputation, to stand behind what I say.
What do you hope to be your lasting significance?
I've always thought about that, and the easy answer was always, as long as I'm remembered, but I think that that's not really what I believe at the end of the day. I think that, again, the way you said that a lot of your heroes are writers, I think as a writer, whether I'm writing songs or I'm writing books or I'm even saying what I believe in a painting, whatever, I just want to be thought of as someone who took the time and risked what they stand for, risked their lives, to put that out into the world. Someone who, ultimately was an artist, I'd like to actually be able to, I don't feel uncomfortable saying that, but I remember, growing up, saying you're an artist, it sounds pretentious. But, I think that now it's one of the only dignified things that you can call yourself. That's it.
Well, I must say, I really look forward to this new album, and I've always admired you for the fact that you have zero compromise factor and you have a lot of imagination and you make me pay attention. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the next album and this movie will bring. So thanks for doing it, man.
Cool, man. Thanks.
Yeah. Coming up later in the show, Peaches makes her television performance debut. But first, my friend Janeane Garofalo with this week's Disquisition.
Have been called a Luddite or a neo-Luddite by friends who understand my lack of modern technology equipment in my home. I don't know how to type, and I write everything in yellow legal pads, and I don't use a computer. I don't have email, okay? Deal with it. I don't have email, so people, they say, can I email you? And I say, I don't have email. And they say, well, how do you get your email? And I say, I don't. Well, how can I send you an email? You can't. Well, what if you need to email somebody? I don't, and I can't, and I never do. Here's my major discovery. Here's what I learned about being on the internet, my computer. That if you punch your computer screen enough times, you will get a sort of petroleum-based looking Roy G. Biv garlic knot looking thing from where your fist hit it. Eventually. Now it's a wonderful base for a bunch of books that I have stacked on it. Now, you may be able to get to more information faster, but that's not what you're doing on the internet. You're getting waylaid by all manner of fetish sites and pornographic sites and gossip nonsense and votes and polls. And what else do people do on the internet that I don't know about? They play Sudoku. What's that game? Sudoku? Sims. Sim City. You're not learning about Sirhan. I also think texting has sort of become the great leveler when it comes to creativity or any sense of wit. LOL? Yes, I know. That was a joke. I'm sure you don't want me to go to hell in a handbasket. Laugh out loud. And actually, oddly enough, when Alexander Graham Bell invented the phone, he said, Watson, come quickly, I need you. Laughter out loud. Because he was kidding. He didn't really need Watson to come quickly. Isn't that funny? That's a funny joke. Why do you hate God? God made the trees, papers from the trees. God didn't make the internet, Al Gore did. And by the way, Al Gore never claimed that he invented the internet. That is apocryphal. He never claimed he invented the internet. That is another lazy narrative trotted out by the lazy media. And also, the character of Oliver in Love Story was partially based on Al Gore, Laura Ingraham, and Sean Hannity, so fucking shut the fuck up. You know, what I do is, and I don't think it's particularly Luddite-ish or anachronistic, what I do at night is I come home, I check on my answer phone to see who has called. I pick up the phone and I say, Sarah, get me an outside line, Murray Hill 7, Transatlantic 5. And then I go in my room and I take out my quill pen and I catch up on my correspondence, and then I'll have a small glass of port and then perhaps take a turn around the grounds before I retire for the evening. The other night I did have a bit of a hard time. I think I was grappling with either the vapors or the bloody flux. But that does not make me old-fashioned. Makes me a damn fine American.
Tonight's musical guest is Peaches, the outspoken hard rock phenomenon who is knocking people on their asses all over the world. I saw Peaches and her mighty band play here in Los Angeles recently, and it occurred to me the bigger the audience was, the better the show would be. Next stop, Wembley. But for now, here to play Boys Wanna Be Her off her album Impeach My Bush and making her television debut, this is Peaches, live and uncut.
Crawl, body sprawl, smoking palm up, close call, stand tall, doll, you make them feel so small. And we know that. The boys wanna be her, the girls wanna be her, the boys wanna be her, the girls wanna be her, the boys wanna be her, the girls wanna be her, the boys wanna be her. I wanna be her. Yes, I do. The way you rock non-stop, girl, you got the chops, flip-flop, she-bop, self-taught, your licks are hot. The lyrics he kids receive, crawling up the sleeve. Parents peep, can't conceive, better tea will never leave. And I love it! Boys wanna be her, the girls wanna be her, the boys wanna be her, the girls wanna be her, the boys wanna be her, the girls wanna be her, the boys wanna be her. I wanna be her. So do you. Listen up, listen up, listen up. Voices scatter, 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 listen up, listen up, listen up. Voices scatter. Wanna be her, the girls wanna be her. Scatter. Wanna be her, the girls wanna be her. Scatter. Wanna be her, the girls wanna be her. Scatter. Wanna be her, the girls wanna be her. The boys wanna be her, the girls wanna be her. The boys wanna be her, the girls wanna be her. The boys wanna be her, the girls wanna be her. The boys wanna be her. The boys, the girls, the boys, the girls, the boys, the girls.
Thank you again to my guests, Peaches and Marilyn Manson. And thank you for watching. See you next time.